Welcome back. Sorry about this longer than anticipated video, but I'm giving it my best shot. Um, so now we're going to look at actually using this while loop to be able to sum some values. And once again, I've got two variables here. I've got the number and the sum. And while the number is less than 5, what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to add 1. Okay, so it starts off as 0. We're going to add 1 to the num. And then the sum is going to then be the sum plus the num. All right? And then we're going to go ahead and display it with a bit of a delay. And you just watched it happen here. So we started off with 0. The first thing it does is add 1 to it. Okay, so it never displays a 0. The math occurs first. So our first number is 1. And of course, sum is still 0 here, so our sum is going to be 0 plus 1, so it's going to be 1, 1. All right. The next time around, we add 1 to it. Okay. So now our num is going to be 2, and it then becomes 1 plus 2, or 3, because sum remained 1 from the last time it went through. So you see 1, 1. 1 plus 2 is 3. 3 plus 3 is 6. 6 plus 4 is 10. 10 plus 5 is 15. Okay? And the sum is equal to 15 for as long as num is less than 5. Now I'm going to rearrange this here in a second and show you why how you place this is so very important. So hold on a second. So now take a look at what I've done here. Basically, I've copied and pasted. I should put a space in here. I've copied and pasted the original block, all right, down below. I reset the two variables back to 0, okay? So we still print out the sum as we did before. I put in a space. I reset the two variables to 0, and I almost do the exact same thing. The only difference is now I'm printing before I do my math, all right? Here I did my math, and then I printed. And you see the two sets of data output right here. The first one is identical to the one we had done just only a moment ago. The second one, though, we actually see the zeros be displayed, okay, because we haven't done any math to them. So our sum and num are equal to 0 on the very first lines. Then we do all the same sort of stuff, but here you can see the last time the sum was run, it only reached 10, okay? So it reached 10, and then it printed the 10, then it did the math, then it came back and realized, oh dang, I'm already done, and it exits out. So we never actually see the 15 get displayed here. We get the 15, the sum, down here because it's done the math and it displayed it after the exit of the loop, but we don't actually see the number displayed in the loop. These are the sort of things you want to watch out for when you're doing your homework. These are the subtle little tricks that can be played that have to be carefully looked at to make sure you understand when the things are being displayed versus when the math is actually occurring, and what happens when the number increments and gets checked by the loop. All right, so let me pause this and move on to the next example. Okay, in this example, we're going to do some more mathemagic down here, showing you how we can average out some values that are collected and incremented during a while statement. And this kind of thing is, for robotics, is really, really handy and important when you're looking at sensor values, for example. I will oftentimes average multiple sensor values so that I get the truest value. It's very quick to take a sensor value, and averaging them is going to give you a much better result. But here you can see we have three variables created, num, sum, and count. Much like before, we're going to take an increment num every time it goes through the loop, and we're going to add num and sum together. And then we're going to have this separate little counter right here. All right, and of course this counter is ultimately, once we get done with our sort of num sum calculation thing like we've seen, what we're going to do is we're going to calculate the average using that counter. So we create another variable, in this case a float, And we're going to then, we need to convert the sum and the count into floats so we can do this math safely. And we see that we end up getting the average. And by the way, this could be done just as easily with this nice statement here, which you guys I think are hopefully getting familiar with, the plus plus. And there's lots of ways to do these things. It should be the same exact value. And we'll wait for this one thing, and then I'll move on. Boom. Okay. And of course it exits and goes to the infinite loop. I'll see you in a second. All right, well now we're getting really pretty complex here. We're going to be combining the while statement, which you're just covering now, with some of the material we covered in Chapter 9 with the if and else if statements. And you can see here what we're going to be doing is we've created a variable, this dice, and I've created a infinite loop here that is going to roll this dice over and over and over again. And this is what's real important here. Okay, remember this is an infinite loop. Okay, well, I can break an infinite loop, and I physically have to do it, or with software have to do it by typing in break. All right, so in this particular case, if this random number generator here, which is going to be stored to the variable dice, happens to roll between a 1 and a 6, if it's a 1, of course it'll output you're eaten by a dragon, and it'll break. All right. If not, it's just going to keep going and going and going and going, stuck in this infinite loop right here until it has a way out, and that can only happen if we get a break statement. So if I roll this, and by the way, I should point out I did put a random seed in here. Okay, so let's go back down. We roll it. Oh, that time we got our number 1 right off the bat. That was no fun. Let's do it again. Theoretically, chances are we won't get a 1 this time. It should continue to do this until it rolls a 1. There we go. So now it was able to break, exits, and then it goes to the main loop, and it enters the infinite loop in the main loop. All right, let's move on. One more, I think 1 or 2 more examples. So in this example, I've got a couple of things I want to introduce. So I've done this kind of funky. I've actually split it into 13 and 13b. Here we see we have a nested while statement. Okay, so the first one, well, first off, I have to introduce this if it hasn't, if you're not familiar with it. We're going to create what's called a Boolean. A Boolean is just a true or false statement. And I've created it, call it play again, and we're going to set it to true. And here we've got this loop where we have play again is equated to true. So if it's true, then it just goes ahead and does this. And then of course we have this dice roll, and it's going to go ahead and roll the dice and roll the dice. All right. And if the dice is ever not equal to 1, all right, it's going to be a game over. All right, so once we run this, you can see that if I load it up, it rolls the dice. Okay, and now we have found it equal to 1. Okay, so it was not equal to 1, it keeps going back and forth. It was equal to 1. It breaks out of this first while loop, and then it goes into this thing where it just says game over. But we're still stuck in the infinite loop here. We're still stuck in this loop here, this true loop. So to fix that, what we're going to do is, you can see up here I've added the skiff, and we're going to load 13b. So let me go ahead and call that up by just putting a b in here. Oh, I forget that I do an underscore. No. All right, 13b. And we'll go back down so we can see it. Oh, what did I call it? Hold on, let me pause. Sorry about that. So the goal here is to break this loop. Okay, so we had a Boolean, we've set it to true, and then we're finding out that it's going to be stuck in this loop until this is no longer true or is a false. Well, to get us a way to get a false, we're going to ask you, hey, do you guys want to play some more? In this case, you can see that no matter what you type in, if it's a capital or not, it's going to switch it to lowercase, and it's going to run an if-else statement, and it's going to then determine whether or not you want to play again. So if I run this, let's get it going here. It's rolling the dice. It got to the 1. Do you want to play again? We'll say yes this time. Alright, I put a small case, but it still corrected it. Do you want to play again? No. Let's run it. And that gave it the way out that it needed. We've set play again to false, so now play again is equal to false. That exits this while statement, and it jumps, it goes down here, prints this last little bit, the see ya, and then it exits the entire thing and enters the infinite loop. Alright, this might be it. Let me take a look. I might add one little bit, and then I'll be done. Okay, this is it. So this last one is kind of fun. Basically, it's just a matter of putting everything all together. What I did is I went back up here to example 12 and copy and pasted this chunk of dice roll information and put it into here. Okay, so what we have is we have two whiles, this nested while statement. It is got the boolean, or it has the boolean here, waiting for a true or false, which of course is decided down here as in the example before. And what we've got going on right here is the random dice roll between 1 and 6, and you can see the various options just like we did before. If notice it's checking to see if it's not equal to 1. If it does actually equal to 1, what ends up happening is it breaks the loop and it jumps down to complete the rest of its task, in this case questions. And if we decide to play again, it resets the dice to 0, goes back up, and if not, it exits out. So you can see that it runs just fine. We'll run it, and then this is it. So it rolls the dice and figures it's going to be a while. Where's our... There we go. Okay, we're eaten by a dragon. Do you want to play again? We'll do it one time. We'll put in this. And okay, we got eaten by a dragon again. It did all these other rolls, and now we'll say no, we're done for the day because I'm tired. It ends going to the see ya, and then of course it exits the entire block and it goes to the infinite loop. So that'll be it for this video, and I'm going to see you again shortly with the do while loop.